Welcome to We've Got a Country to Save, hosted by the black face of white supremacy, and brought to you by my friends at InvestYrefy.com. Invest in America like I do, and by Freedom Chat. Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. Be sure to download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also want to thank Epoch Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and Birch Gold. And make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you are watching this on right now, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. Now, if you don't patronize our sponsors, well, we know where you live. Trump convicted. So now what? Does Robert De Niro need to be institutionalized? Will Trump's conviction make voters less likely to vote for him? Will Dems really try to switch out Joe Biden for Gavin Newsom? All of this and more. Now, as mentioned, former President Donald Trump has been found guilty on all charges. This gentleman had a mild reaction to Trump's conviction. Watch this.
Donald Trump was just found guilty for his hush money. The verdict came back and they said he was guilty. But let me be the first to let them corrupt, sleazy mother know that November 5th, I'm still voting for Donald Trump. I don't give a if he's on a ballot or not. I'm gonna write his mother name down. Trying to throw this man in jail for some bullshit that Sleepy Joe do. All my black, white, Asian, Hispanic, and Indian Americans, we gonna form mother Voltron on November 5th. Yeah, boy, it's gonna be electrifying. It's gonna be the most emotional, impactful movement in history. Because in the first time in history, all walk of life is gonna come together. We're not gonna look at cultures. We're not gonna look at race. We all one people. We all on the same mother page. I don't give a if you a blood, crip, trailer, trash, hood, mother biker gang. We all got one thing in common, and we done had a mother enough. We gonna pull up, hop out, we gonna barbecue, and we gonna realize that we all have more in common than they say we don't. We gonna walk together, baby. We ain't gonna march. We gonna have that pimp walk. We gonna walk together, baby. We gonna love one another. But more important, we gonna get them the f out. Sleepy Joe, go to sleep, Sleepy Joe.
Now, as you know, I watch a lot of CNN, MSNBC, so you don't have to. And there is a senior legal analyst for CNN. His name is Eli Honig. And he shocked his colleagues with his reaction to the Trump verdict. Listen to what he said. Quote, reasonable minds could have come out either way. And this jury found that the prosecution carried its burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The jury's work and their verdict deserve respect. But that doesn't mean that every structural infirmity around the Manhattan District Attorney's case has evaporated. Both of these things can be true at once. The jury did its job, and this case was an ill-conceived, unjustified mess. End of quote. As for former President Donald Trump's reaction, here's what he said.
It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. But the real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace. And we'll keep fighting. We'll fight till the end and we'll win, because our country's gone to hell. We don't have the same country anymore. We have a divided mess. We're a nation in decline, serious decline. Millions and millions of people pouring into our country right now from prisons and from mental institutions, terrorists, and they're taking over our country. We have a country that's in big trouble. But this was a rigged decision right from day one, with a conflicted judge who should have never been allowed to try this case, never. And we will fight for our Constitution. This is long from over. Thank you very much.
Hi, folks. Do you trust this economy? What if you could receive a strong fixed rate of return that's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed? And what if you were in control? You could turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose. What if your interest was compounded daily, you were paid monthly, and there were absolutely no fees? And what if you could have peace of mind because there was no attack on your principal if you ever needed your money back? Well, folks, there is an investment with all of these features. Investors all over the country are earning a high fixed rate of return with Yrefy, and they don't care about what happened with the stock market or the Fed. And best of all, they receive their statement every month with no surprises. Would you like some more information? Just call 877-80-INVEST. That's 877-80-INVEST. Or log on to investyrefy.com. That's investyrefy.com. Yrefy, do well by doing good. Biden released a written statement on Trump's guilty verdict. I'll explain that in a minute. Why did Biden make a statement in writing as opposed to in person, as he suggested that he would? Again, I'll talk about that in a minute.
Ed, what are you learning? Are we going to hear from President Biden?
We are not going to hear from President Biden, but we have a written statement from him, Nora. I'll explain why we won't in a moment. In his statement, he says, in New York today, we saw that no one is above the law. Donald Trump has always mistakenly believed he would never face consequences for breaking the law for his own personal gain. But today's verdict does not change the fact that the American people face a simple reality. There's still only one way to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office, at the ballot box. Convicted felon or not, Trump will be the Republican nominee for president. The threat Trump poses to our democracy has never been greater, the president says in his statement from his campaign. He says Trump, quote, is running an increasingly unhinged campaign of revenge and retribution, pledging to be a dictator on day one and calling for our Constitution to be terminated so he can regain and keep power. A second Trump term means chaos, ripping away Americans' freedoms and fomenting political violence, and the American people will reject it this November.
Sleepy dog, go to sleep, sleepy dog.
The verdict, in short, is a freaking outrage. A monster has been unleashed. And if Dems don't think Republican AGs and DAs can't unleash lawfare on Democrat politicians, they should think again. Think about all the different things that Republican AGs and DAs can do. Remember the 51 former intelligence officials that signed that letter claiming the Hunter Biden laptop had all the, quote, hallmarks of Russian disinformation? Was that election interference? Did that break some sort of law? I'm sure somebody could come up with some sort of way of arguing that, either on the federal level or on the state level or on the local level. What about all that money that Mark Zuckerberg spent to get out the Democrat turnout? $419.5 million. I'm sure that broke all sorts of rules and regulations, federal and state. Maybe some enterprising Republican AG or DA can find some sort of argument that that is a violation as well. And what about former President Barack Obama? Remember Eric Holder, his AG? The first AG in history to be found in criminal contempt of Congress for failing to turn over the papers under subpoena of Fast and Furious? Why can't some enterprising Republican AG or DA figure out some sort of legal statute to bring charges against Barack Obama and Eric Holder? These guys have no idea what they have unleashed. People who hate Donald Trump said at the very beginning that this trial has huge problems. Remember, Manhattan DA Bragg promised to prosecute Trump, yet when he became DA, didn't charge him. Even suggested that there was insufficient evidence to do so. Then he reversed course. Why? A former special assistant DA quit and wrote a book accusing Bragg of basically malpractice for refusing to follow through on his campaign pledge. Bragg denied the book influenced him and said, quote, I bring hard cases when they're ready, close quote. I guess all of a sudden it was ready. And this is what the New York Times said about Bragg's case before the verdict. And I am quoting, quote, the accusations were salacious, involving money paid to a porn star just before the 2016 presidential election so she would remain silent about her claim that they had sex a decade before. But Bragg studiously avoided mentioning sex or hush money during his press conference when he announced the charges, focusing instead on the 34 counts of falsifying business records to cover up the payment. He seemed unprepared or unwilling to answer the most obvious questions. Why he had abandoned a different case about whether Trump had falsified the valuations of properties, or why he thought he could make these new charges stick End of quote. That's the New York Times saying, what's he doing? Following his press conference when he announced the charges. Now, this is from another anti-Trump outlet called Politico. Quote, some wondered why Bragg revived a case he had appeared to leave for dead just months ago. Others questioned the specifics, like how Bragg was able to elevate the falsification of business record charges against Trump into felonies, a move that requires evidence that Trump attempted to conceal a second crime. Still others focus on the delay in bringing charges 6 years after the core underlying conduct and anticipated that Trump will seek to toss the case for exceeding the statute of limitations, end of quote. Again, that is Politico, and they hate Donald Trump. Here's another. A liberal legal commentator for Vox, his name is Ian Millhauser, wrote this, and I'm quoting, it is unclear that the felony statute that Trump is accused of violating actually applies to him. Bragg built his case on an exceedingly uncertain legal theory. Even if Trump did the things he's accused of, it's not clear Bragg can legally charge Trump for them. Bragg has evidence that Trump acted to cover up a federal crime, but it is not clear that Bragg is allowed to point to a federal crime in order to charge Trump under the New York state law, end of quote. And again, these are outlets that do not like Trump. The New York Times, Politico, Vox, all of whom said this saying is outrageous, and this was before the verdict came down. And again, even CNN's Fareed Zakaria said the prosecution would not have been brought if the defendant were not named Trump.
I doubt the New York indictment would have been brought against a defendant whose name was not Donald Trump.
Now, sentencing is July 11. What effect will this have on the election? Well, an NPR PBS poll showed that for 67% of registered voters, a guilty verdict against Trump would not make any difference. 15% said it would make them more likely to vote for Trump, and 17% said a guilty verdict would make them less likely to vote for Trump.
Think Trump did something illegal in the New York hush money case. I've been interested in whether or not these numbers would change at all during the course of this trial. Simply put, John, they have not. Pre-opening statements think Trump did something illegal, 46%. After the direct examination of Michael Cohen by the prosecution, look at where we are now, 46%. The percentage of Americans who think that the charges are very serious, in fact, dropped from 40% to a little bit more than 35% during the course of this trial. So, yes, perhaps things might have changed with those 12 jurors, but when it comes to the larger American public, there has been no change, at least so far, John.
Any possible reasons why?
Yeah, I think the question is, what's exactly cooking here? Why hasn't there been much of a change? Well, folks like you and me, real news junkies, might be paying really close attention to what's going on. The fact is, most Americans don't really care that much. So closely following news about economy inflation, that's number one at 65%. Look at immigration, 52%. Election legitimacy, 49%. Abortion, 47%. All the way down on this list of issues tested by the Ipsos Knowledge Panel is Trump's court cases at 42%, significantly less than economy and inflation. The fact is, John, when we're looking at these numbers, what we see is Americans' minds aren't changing, and a big reason why Americans' minds aren't changing is at this particular point, John, they are tuned out of the conversation.
You say folks like you and me. I'm not sure there are very many folks exactly like you, Harry, but I take your point on that.
No.
In terms of the general election matchup right now, how do things look there?
Yeah, just, quickly here, John, I'll just point out the Biden versus Trump margin, perhaps not a big surprise. Donald Trump had a slight lead before the trial began. Now he continues to have a slight lead. Look, it's still very much a winnable race for Joe Biden. But at this particular point, that Trump train that's been moving faster than it's ever moved before in a general election doesn't show any signs of slowing down, despite the criminal indictments against him, despite the fact that this case in New York is now going to the jury, John.
Now, as for why Biden made no personal statement, there was a movie in 1970 called Tora, 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 where, after the successful mission to bomb Pearl Harbor, the architect of the bombing, Japanese Admiral Yamamoto, said this.
眠れる巨人を起こし、奮い立たせる結果を招いたも同然である。
I fear All we have done is awaken a sleeping giant and filled him with terrible resolve. End of quote.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Can you weather the storm? Can your savings weather an economic storm? Think about what you've put away for the future. Inflation can render your cash worthless. Real estate can crash like in 2008. Economies built on a mountain of debt can fall like a house of cards. There are very few physical assets you can invest in that can stand the test of time. Gold has withstood as a valued form of money for millennia. It's why people are flocking to it now, and why Birch Gold is busier than ever. Through a little-known tax loophole, Birch Gold lets you convert a retirement account into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold. And the best part, it doesn't cost you a penny out of pocket. To learn more, visit LarryForGold.com and claim your free info kit on gold. Let me ask you this again. Can your IRA or 401k weather an economic storm? If not, call the people I trust, Birch Gold. Visit LarryForGold.com and secure your savings today. That's LarryForGold.com. Now, does the Trump-hating actor Robert De Niro need to be institutionalized?
From midnight tweets to drinking bleach.
Hold up. Penalty flag. Did Trump ever say drink bleach?
And by the way, if Joe Biden goes out there one day and asks people to drink bleach as a way of fighting a pandemic, God knows.
That never happened, Donna.
Yes.
You got fed a lie there. That never happened, Donna. You got fed a lie. Never happened. If you're going to say that on the show, you got to have the clip. Never happened.
Well, get the clip.
All right.
Because
Good luck. Get the clip, Donna. Good
whatever
luck.
you want to call
I'll buy you a steak dinner if you find that clip.
No, I mean, look.
It never happened.
I don't want no dinner
I'm just
from you, baby.
I'm just trying to be honest.
Oh, yes, he did.
If you're going to bring up something that's not true, we got to point it out.
Let's proceed.
To tear gassing citizens and staging a photo op.
Trump, De Niro is implying, ordered citizens to be tear gas. Trump wanted to do so because he could have a photo op. De Niro is referring to the tear gas that was in fact used to disperse protesters in Lafayette Park, insinuating that Trump A, ordered the use of the tear gas, and B, did so he could have a photo op in the park across from the White House. This is from NBC News. They talk about the Interior Department's Inspector General, whose name is Mark Greenblatt. He investigated the incident and issued a report. Again, this is according to NBC News. Quote, the report found that Washington, D.C. police, one of several enforcement agencies on the scene, fired tear gas at protesters, and that the use of gas was a surprise to the park police, which was leading the operation. But Greenblatt found that the park police had the authority to clear the park and decided to do so in consultation with AG Bill Barr, hours before anyone knew Trump planned to make an appearance. End of quote. And Greenblatt told NBC News, again I'm quoting, we found that the park police made the decision to clear the park of protesters in order to install an anti-scale fencing to protect the park and U.S. park police officers during those protests. We did not find evidence that the park police made the decision in order to permit the President of the United States to visit the park or for a photo op at the St. John's Church across the street. End of quote. So, Mr. De Niro, it's a lie.
Oh, that's very different. Never mind.
We continue.
This time threatening to be a dictator to terminate the Constitution.
Trump says he wants to be a dictator. Trump wants to terminate the Constitution. Here's what Trump actually said when he used the word dictator.
Do you in any way have any plans whatsoever, if reelected president, to abuse power, to break the law, to use the government to go after people?
You mean like they're using right now?
You would never abuse power as retribution against anybody.
Except for day one.
Except
Look,
what?
he's going crazy. Except for day one.
Meaning?
I want to close the border and I want to drill.
That's not retribution. I'm
going to be, you know, he keeps, we love this guy. He says, you're not going to be a dictator, are you? I said, no, other than day one. We're closing the border. and we're drilling. After that, I'm not a dictator, okay?
That's not exactly...
Democracy stunk.
Let's continue, shall we?
If I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Trump wants revenge, and he'll stop at nothing to get it.
De Niro is implying that if Trump does not get elected, he's going to unleash his rabid fascist supporters, and there will be blood in the streets, Kristallnacht, bodies lying all over. He wants revenge. This isn't even close to what Trump has said or even implied. When Trump said about bloodbath, he was talking to the economic damage Joe Biden is doing generally to the economy and the damage he will do to the auto industry if Trump is not elected. This is what Trump actually said.
To China, if you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. Now, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Finally.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
You must have had vegetables fresher than that.
This is the man, Joe Biden, who promised to be what? A uniter, who promised to turn America away from President Trump's vicious brand of politics.
He wants to sow total chaos. Donald Trump wants to destroy not only the city, but the country, and eventually he could destroy the world. A clown. But around the country, people who didn't know him, as we did, started to support him. They bought into his bullshit. Somehow he even got self-styled patriots to support a man who called for terminating the Constitution, and on January 6th rallied an angry mob to threaten democracy, leaving death and destruction in its wake. He'll use violence against anyone who stands in the way of his megalomania and greed. But it's a coward's violence. You think Trump ever threw a punch himself or took one? This guy who ran and hid in the White House bunker when there were protesters outside? No way. He doesn't get blood on his hands. No, he doesn't. He directs the mob to do his dirty work for him by making a suggestion, an inference. And his gang grovels and follows his obvious order. And now he's promising to use our own military to attack U.S. citizens. That's the tyrant. That's the tyrant he's telling us he'll be. And believe me, he means it. This buffoon running for president, no, never could happen. We'd forgotten the lessons of history that showed us other clowns who weren't taken seriously until they became vicious dictators. Under Trump, this kind of government will perish from the earth.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Okay, could we change the subject, perhaps?
I don't mean to scare you. No, wait, maybe I do mean to scare you. If Trump returns to the White House, you can kiss these freedoms goodbye that we all take for granted. And elections, forget about it. That's over. That's done. If he gets in, I can tell you right now, he will never leave. He will never leave. You know that. He will never leave. What does that mean? Is that the country we want to live in? Do we want him running this country and saying, I'm not leaving, I'm dictator for life? What a danger he is to our lives. This is not a threat. This is a reality.
Does this Trump-hating actor need to be institutionalized?
You talking to me? You talking to me?
We step to the side right here. You're not going to intimidate. That's what Trump does, to try to intimidate. We have to fight back.
You talking to me?
We're trying to do the We're trying to be gentlemen in this world, the Democrats. You are gangsters.
Well, who the hell else are you talking to? Talking to me?
You are gangsters.
Who the do you think you're talking to?
Gangsters? You mean like...
I want that son of a dead. I want him dead. I want him dead. I don't care. What am I, alone in this world? Did I ask you what you're trying to do? Did I ask you what you're trying to do?
Hey, don't judge.
First of all, everyone, please put on your masks and keep your distance. Some of us are really weak and fragile, and I don't know why they made this podium so high. I told them I'm coming straight from the bathhouse and didn't have my platform shoes with me. I'm speaking to you today because I'm a scared little man, a washed-up actor with lots of skeletons in my closet. People like me need Joe Biden in power, not because he's any good, but because he enjoys the same sick perversions we do. Lots of dicks think I'm smart because, I used to be able to memorize lines, but cock my head to the side and squint with a New York accent. In reality, I'm just a mook. M-O-O-K mook.
Here's Trump spokeswoman Caroline Levitt on Niro/Biden's courthouse press conference.
What you just heard from is a desperate and failing and pathetic campaign who knows that they are losing. Joe Biden's sending his campaign outside of this criminal courthouse. It is a full-blown concession that this trial is a witch hunt that comes from the top, comes from Joe Biden, and he is using a far-left district attorney in this city, Alvin Bragg. This case would have been laughed out of any other courtroom in America. Legal scholars on both sides of the aisle, even liberal legal scholars, agree there is no crime, there is no case, but Joe Biden knew he could use Alvin Bragg, who is sitting in that courthouse today, wasting away the tax dollars of the hardworking people of this city to go after Joe Biden's political opposition. And the man overseeing this case is a corrupt and highly partisan and crooked judge who is highly conflicted for reasons that President Trump can't even talk about because this judge imposed an unconstitutional gag order on the former president of the United States and the leading frontrunner in this election. This is a disgrace. President Trump has been locked up in that courtroom for 6 weeks, but guess what? The American people see through this witch hunt and this scam, and that's why President Trump continues to rise in the polls. That's why he pulls a crowd of more than 25,000 in the deep blue Bronx. That's why he pulls a crowd of more than 100,000 in deep blue New Jersey. Everywhere he goes, everyday Americans, not elitist, out-of-touch Hollywood actors like Robert De Niro, who have no idea the real problems that people in this city and across this country are facing. President Trump is backed by the hardworking men and women of this country, and I could not help but laugh when Joe Biden's spokesperson actually came out here and said, accused President Trump of being the threat to democracy. Joe Biden is the real threat to democracy. He is weaponizing our justice system. Look at all of you. This is a communist show trial. There are real problems in America, and you are all out here covering this because Joe Biden is weak, he's pathetic, he's a threat to democracy, not only with this weaponization of our justice system, but with his wide open border invasion that is allowing a mass invasion of illegal people into this country. Terrorists, criminals, our economy is in shambles, we are heading towards World War III. Those are the issues real Americans care about. That is why President Trump is going to win this election, and ultimately he will be vindicated of this sham crooked trial because he has the truth on his side and he is an innocent man.
Then there's Dr. Jill Biden.
Can you imagine if we put any more Republicans on the Supreme Court? No. We will lose all of our rights.
You know, Dr. Biden leads her cognitively challenged husband around like these pageant moms who make their 7-year-old daughters look like little hotties to compete in these pageants. Is Dr. Biden really any different the way she's treating her husband? Let me ask you a question. How many of you are concerned about the invasion of privacy that is currently going on by the Biden administration? Biden's DOJ is invading individuals' private messages and targeting them based on their political affiliation, and that's why I partnered with Freedom Chat. a private social messaging app that, like me, believes privacy is your fundamental human right. Freedom Chat has variable end-to-end encryption, built-in screenshot protection, no storage of messages on their servers, and no commercial use of user data. I'm such a fan of Freedom Chat, in fact, that I have created my own private channel that you can subscribe to for exclusive content, including never-seen images, videos, and posts. Simply download the app, or if you're on Android, join their waitlist. Search for my channel and subscribe. No one can see the channels that you are subscribed to or the posts that you react to. It's your own perfectly curated private news feed. Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. Download the app today and subscribe to my channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. You know, some people who should know better are still saying that Democrats are going to switch out Joe Biden for Gavin Newsom. Here's one of the reasons they won't do it. This is how fellow governors really feel about Gavin Newsom.
Governors are CEOs. Governors have to deliver. So how can governors play a bigger role in leading us out?
Yeah, again, lead by example. And I think, look, almost all the governors get along. I mean, in my 8 years, I can honestly tell you there's really only been two, maybe a third, but two real governors that really nobody liked. Nobody cared for at all. I don't mind.
Would you say who they are?
Do you really want me to? Yeah, Andrew Cuomo. Complete jackass. No one likes him. And I gotta be honest. No one cares for Gavin. Gavin's just a prick. Excuse me. He just is. It's really disappointing. I got along with him. All of us got along for a while. But even the Democrats, they won't tell you out loud. But behind closed doors, you're like, oh, God, look who's coming.
No, they are stuck with Biden. And if it ain't Biden, it's Harris. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. I like to move it, move it. You like to move it. All girls all over the world. Original man, stunt man, pon your case, man.
Let's play Biden. Real or fake?
All right, this one I'm going to ask you about.
You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-cop. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-democracy. You can't be pro-insurrection and pro-American. Donald Trump lacked the courage to act.
So what did you think of this one?
He didn't blink.
Not at all, right?
So that suggests it's fake.
This one's actually real.
How's that?
And yes, he didn't blink for the whole 17-second clip. And when this actually surfaced about a year ago, there were conspiracy theories and people thinking that this had to have been a deep fake. The reason that we can tell that this one is not a deep fake, we really need to rely on the source. First of all, coming out a full White House video, giving a speech, and these were remarks that were delivered virtually. We're not only at risk of seeing things that are false and thinking that they're true, but actually seeing things that are true and thinking that they're false.
Biden? Real or fake?
Recently, I'm hearing more noise about how Donald's going to win. You short bus folks are quite confident you're going to take the White House from me. Now, I don't mind the optimism. In fact, I myself hope for a fair and close election. I like when things are neck and neck right to the end. So I wanted to extend to you an olive branch as I felt that might be a good start to this conversation. With that being said, if Trump wins the election, it will be because of a free and fair democratic election. Me personally, Joseph Raphael Jebediah Biden III, I'm going to retire. I give it about 18 seconds after all my presidential duties are finished, before my socks are taken off for the last time ever. I'm going to be splitting my time between my Corvette and the flower bed while continuing to sneak Commander treats every time he bites Secret Service. I do that.
Interpreter, please.
Let me close with this. After I signed the PAC Act into law,
I repeat, please get me an interpreter.
Get me mumbles.
Promised we'd start to reconnect black and brown and overlooked neighborhoods cut off by highways in the 60s, and decades of disinvestment as a consequence of it, including here in Philly. Well, we're changed that with the Recovery Act of... Right now, You see all the construction going on the highways around here.
They are trying to do what?
They're trying to erase black history. We're going to write black history because it's American history. They're going to put you all back in chains. And you ain't black.
Now get this. According to the Media Research Center, researchers asked the artificial intelligence chat box ChatGPT what the top 5 biggest lies that Biden and former President Donald Trump have each told. The chatbot claimed, get this, that for Biden, it, quote, can't list specific lies without context or verification, end of quote. Yet it had no problem rattling off 5 comments that Trump has made. Now, nearly 2 weeks after this, because of conservative outcry, all of a sudden, the chatbot suddenly remembered some of Biden's whoppers.
What law school did you attend, and where did you place in that class? And the other question is, could you quickly, I think
I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom 2/3 of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class. I won the International Moot Court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
Why would you call Joe Biden what you called him today?
That he's dumb?
No. That would have been a compliment. That would have been like an invitation to the prom. You called him a mentally deficient idiot.
I didn't mean that. I meant he's dumb. I think Joe's last in his law school class. Joe...
He wasn't last, but he was low.
Actually, he was second to last, and the guy died, and he ended up last.
We had it as a different number, but he didn't do well.
Biden said he was arrested trying to see Nelson Mandela when Mandela was in jail during apartheid South Africa. Washington Post fact checker said, and I'm quoting, Biden has never been shy about tooting his own horn. So it's pretty surprising that on the eve of a primary critical to his election hopes, he suddenly recalls being arrested in South Africa and being thanked by Mandela for being arrested. There is no evidence for either claim. Neither appears remotely credible. Biden earns 4 Pinocchios, end of quote. Again, that's the Trump-hating Washington Post. Biden claimed that the COVID-19 vaccines were not available when he became president. Really? Now that doesn't even deserve a response. Media Research Center put together some of Biden's greatest hits.
I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home. I got involved in the civil rights movement. I got involved in the civil rights movement. We got involved in desegregated movie theaters. Got arrested for standing on the porch with a black family.
I was not out marching. I was not an activist.
There were these 2 well-dressed men standing in a corner. The light changed. They kissed each other and went in different directions. And I'd never seen that before. I looked at my dad. He looked back at me and said, it's simple. They love each other.
Did you ever save anyone's life when you were a lifeguard? Was anyone ever drowning?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, well, half a dozen times, usually younger kids. They call him Bozy, my Uncle Bozy. He got shot down in New Guinea, and they never found the body because there used to be a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea. I actually taught for a number of years in law school, and then I was a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. You make me miss being a professor at Penn. I really enjoyed teaching and writing. I came back from South Africa trying to see Nelson Mandela and getting arrested for trying to see him on Robben Island.
I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robben Island.
One of the conductors said to me, you've traveled over 1 million miles on Amtrak. I said, how the hell do you know that? And they added it up. We have a little sense, Jill and I, what it's like to lose a home. Lightning struck at home. I almost lost my wife, my 67 Corvette, and my cat.
3,000 civilians inside the green zone where I've been 7 times and shot at.
I got put in that 10 most eligible bachelor's list. We're going to cure cancer. We end cancer as we know it. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
Americans have had enough of supporting companies that hate our values. Tired of compromise? So am I. It's time to switch to Patriot Mobile, America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They are an example of putting the cause ahead of profits, and that's why I'm proud to partner with them. Patriot Mobile offers dependable nationwide coverage, giving you access to all 3 major networks, which means you get the same coverage you've been accustomed to without funding the left. When you switch over to Patriot Mobile, you're sending a message that you support the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the sanctity of life, and our military vets and our first responder heroes. Their 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes it easy to switch, keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Their team will help you find the best plan for your needs. Just go to patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. That's patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. Get free activation when you use the offer code Larry. Join me and make that switch today. patriotmobile.com/Larry, patriotmobile.com/Larry or call 972-PATRIOT. So it was a bad idea for Donald Trump to go to the Bronx, right?
He is stuck in a pretty tight radius of where he can go. New York City's blue, Brooklyn is blue, Queens is blue, the Bronx is blue, and he's got nowhere to go. And so he's decided to come to the South Bronx. He's broke. He needs to pay these legal funds and, bussing people in order to get those donations so that he can funnel them to his legal fees is kind of his business right now.
Well, I'll tell you, it won't make a difference at all, Jake, and that is for Donald Trump to be the ringleader of and invite all his clowns to a place like the Bronx. New York will never, ever support Donald Trump for president. He wants to spend his time doing these made-up fake rallies and pretending their support here.
The BX?
Yeah.
The BX, oh, he's going to get his. The BX don't mess. They don't play around.
Yeah?
Yeah, he should never came over here. They don't want him over here. I've been here, living over here all my life. I'm 72, going to 73. And I know people on these neighborhoods, they don't like him.
I mean, there was no real crowd. My friend's daughter works there. She didn't see a real MAGA crowd for him. It was pretty empty.
And invite all his clowns to a place like the Bronx. He wants to spend his time doing these made-up fake rallies and pretending their support here.
What do you think about him being here?
I think it's great. I think it's dope. From my generation, from what I know, this is the first time president has actually came to the hood. I know presidents have came to the Bronx before, but we're talking about Woodlawn, Riverdale. He has came to Morrisania, South Bronx, the hood. So I respect that.
But Donald Trump is the man. Everybody wants to see Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is the man.
You voted for Trump in past elections?
No, I voted for Biden, but I regret it.
Oh my God.
What was the crowd like, and what kind of response did he get?
Well, certainly a bigger crowd than I think Democrats would like to see, particularly given this is one of the bluest counties in the entire country.
New York City's blue. Brooklyn is blue, Queens is blue, the Bronx is blue.
Look, AOC, look at the tremendous support for Mr. Donald J. Trump.
You need to tell her then she need to stay out the Bronx because look at all the people around. Everybody's here for Trump.
I am a Democrat, and I belong here.
And who are you voting for?
Donald J. Trump.
What has AOC done for the Bronx?
She's done nothing for the Bronx. Nothing. Nothing's changed. Nothing's gotten any better.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Let her come to the Bronx and let her come among us people that struggle. She doesn't even know what struggle is.
That's a deep rivalry right there. Yeah. I hear you, honey. I hear you.
I stand with Trump. I stand with Trump. United we stand, divided we fall.
I believe in my heart he's going to win again. I love him.
I used to be a Democrat, and I changed to Republican because I cannot stand what's going on.
I came here legally. I get really, really, really upset when I see that people that cross, the border freely, and they come, give them housing, give them free money, give them iPhone 15. I don't have iPhone 15. I can't afford it.
Well, that's Bidenomics in action.
We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. We will make America great again. Thank you, Bronx. Thank you, New York. We love you. Thank you. God bless everybody.
This CNN reporter, stunned, shocked, traumatized, triggered by the pro-Trump reaction in the Bronx.
I wasn't sure what to expect. I've gone to a lot of these rallies across the country, and there are often people who travel hundreds of miles to see Donald Trump, and they're not necessarily part of the community. However, one of the things that I found was that there were a lot of people here that were actually from the Bronx.
And this MSNBC reporter attended the Bronx rally and asked people there about Trump's, quote, racist rhetoric, close quote. She got reminded about Biden's racist rhetoric when he went on Charlemagne the God and said, "You ain't really black if you don't know whether you want to vote for me or vote for Trump."
You were there last night. You heard it. You talked to the people who were in that crowd. How was his message received?
Well, this might sound a little counterintuitive, but I did talk to folks in that crowd who themselves were immigrants. A lot of folks from the Dominican Republic. A lot of people that I talked to were born and raised in the Bronx. For some of them, this was their first ever Trump event. And when you talk to immigrants that are going to these Trump rallies, they agree with his message on immigration. Their point is, look, I did it the right way. I came here legally, and especially those living in New York right now, the sentiment I heard from a lot of voters was, we have these immigrants right now that the city is taking care of in a way that I've never felt taken care of by this city. It was a large crowd and a diverse crowd. Yes, there were some people from Westchester, from New Jersey, but there were a lot of people there that were from the Bronx, Black and Latino voters that are sick of how much they're paying for gas and groceries, that are frustrated with the situation at the border, and that find President Biden's rhetoric when it comes to minority voters a little bit offensive. Take a listen.
Legal troubles. Does any of that worry you at all?
No, at all. I think he's going to be elected the president because everyone still wants him as the president. So to me, it doesn't matter.
Biden, they have disrespected the people of the city of New York. This was the best city in the world. We're not the great apple anymore. We're not the big apple. We are the rotten apple.
Biden went on the Charlemagne the God show and said, "You ain't black if you don't vote for him." I'm black because that's how I was born and what I am. And Trump is the man that can save this country. Period.
So interesting to talk to those voters, Anna, and multiple people actually mentioned that Charlemagne the God interview.
Have you ever heard the term wake-up call?
No.
It is an incident where a person of color forgets that they are of color and are reminded rather brutally by an unexpected act of racism. Have you ever had any of those?
Oh, brother. Joe Biden insulted you by saying, "You ain't really black. We don't know whether or not you want to vote for me or vote for Donald Trump." How dare this guy come in here and insult you, a black man, and tell you you got to think a certain kind of way? I'm amazed that you weren't mad about that. That should have been a wake-up call on your part to have a white guy come in here who also said, by the way, gonna put y'all back in chains. And Joe Biden has lied for decades about his civil rights record, claiming that he desegregated movie theaters and restaurants in Wilmington, Delaware, when he didn't do any of that. He lied and said that he tried to visit Nelson Mandela during apartheid South Africa. It seems to me that should have been a wake-up call for you, but it wasn't.
And you ain't black.
Now, this black Biden supporter is accompanied by a white Trump supporter, and he interacts with the Trump supporters. Then the white female Trump supporter with the black Biden supporter interacts, or at least attempts to interact, with Biden supporters. Here's what happened.
Such as the Trump people, they just don't want to see it.
Hey, I wanted to take you over here with me to the Trump supporter side, and maybe you can show me if there is racism over here that I should be concerned about. He wants to know if he's going to be safe inside there if he goes.
Yeah, come on in, you go with us.
We'll welcome you with open arms.
Hey, you guys are almost changing me around. Hold on, a few more, I might change my mind. I don't see enough of me to represent with me here.
Hey, you're with us. That's all that matters, brother. It don't black, white don't mean.
Now I'm going to go over with the demonstrators with him, and he's going to follow me around and see if I get treated with love and tolerance.
No, Nazi.
Yeah, no one can hear what you're saying. You can't. How do we become black?
During the 2016 election, Horowitz exposed the intolerance of the supposedly tolerant, inclusive left. This is Horowitz holding up a Hillary sign at the Republican National Convention.
Hillary, gonna be good for the country. Come on. I love Hillary.
I love your sign.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you for your courage.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. Oh, jeez!
There you go.
That was a good one. Hillary.
God loves you anyway.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. Thank you.
Then he held up a Trump sign at the Democrat National Convention.
Trump for president, everybody. Trump for president. Nah, he's not a d. He's looking out for us. Exactly. Did you just spit on me? That was not nice. Come on.
You don't have to be nice. Kiss your mother with that mouth?
I mean, yeah, on the cheek, though. Why is that? All right, man, whatever. Free speech, right?
That's racist.
No.
Why do you think this?
Do you consider yourself
Are you doing this for attention?
Not at all.
You like what?
Immigration.
Everybody is everybody can get their own opinion, but your opinion.
I'm not
Your
illegal.
ancestors came here. The litany of your privilege.
Trump send us. He's trying to send us back to Africa or something. You gotta look at it from our perspective. If we was Africa, if y'all was African, and he sent y'all back, y'all was.
Why are we the only people who are not allowed to be angry? Why can't we be angry?
Unattended luggage.
Behind me is the San Diego border wall, what was once regarded as the best example of secure bordering in the United States. Now, this border wall section, it's now facing the same type of border crisis right here as the rest of the country.
We have open gaps here in San Diego, but they're just coming in.
According to statistics from Customs and Border Protection, around 7.2 million illegal immigrants entered the United States under President Joe Biden alone. What is actually causing this crisis?
Yes, some libertarians did boo Donald Trump when he spoke at their convention. Can you imagine Joe Biden giving a speech at a libertarian convention?
No, but I'm serious. There are members of the Libertarian Party, and there are people who came here to support Donald Trump. Listen, I have a message for both of you individually. I hear you. To the members of the Libertarian Party, which I am also one. Guys, listen, here's my message to the libertarians here. The former president of the United States of America and the current frontrunner to be the next president is here to talk to you. We are not a bunch of college leftist sissies. We believe in free speech. So be respectful. I'm not telling you you have to agree with him, and I'm not telling you you have to cheer for him. But we're not having like Jordan Peterson at Berkeley event here. And the message we're sending to the world is not that we can't handle ideas that we disagree with.
James Carville explains exactly why Biden is doing poorly in the polls with young people and blacks.
And we keep wondering why these young people aren't coming home to the Democrats, or why blacks are not coming home to the Democrats. Because Democratic messaging is full of shit. That's why.
Logical. More racism from MSNBC's insufferable Joy Reid.
And think about it. If Trump has so many supporters in New York, why aren't they showing up in droves to support him at his trial, where the courthouse is literally just a subway ride away? This is Tuesday. One supporter. Usually there are none. Trust me, I've been there. And to top off this tomfoolery, Trump floated Florida Congressman Byron Donalds as a potential vice presidential pick. Donalds, who backed Trump's lie that Biden authorized the feds to take him out, that guy, the one black guy that Republicans love to roll out as fake proof that black people, the blacks, are just MAGA. They're MAGA. It's a joke, and just as credible as when they pretended they were going to make that guy Speaker of the House, because they weren't going to do that either.
So all these black people at the Trump Bronx rally were rolled out. Don't show this to Joy Reid.
I think you stand with Trump.
I'm not stupid.
I could tell the minute I saw you, your eyes lit up when you saw the Trump flags. As I told her, you know why you stand with Trump? Because beautiful people stand with Trump.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
Huh?
How's your drink? That drink looks
It's
beautiful.
really good.
Really
It's
good?
a mocktail.
Mocktail is delicious.
From one of the vendors.
So what was your answer? Why do you stand with Trump?
I stand with Trump because he's basically representing us, and everything that they're doing to him is what they can do to us. Yeah. And the system is broken, and, you know, he's fighting for us, you know? So I like his policies. I like how he says it like it is, and, you know, and Biden gotta go. I'm sick of him.
And what would you say to a black person that says that you're not black because you're voting for Trump?
Well, then I guess I identify as a white man. I don't know. I don't care what anybody has to say. I'm a mother. I care about the future of my child, and I care about policies over, you know, rhetoric.
I want a diamond ring. I want some bracelets and everything. Daddy, you better get the best for me.
Then there's this MSNBC pundit.
So first of all, what Trump is appealing to is what, Frederick Douglass talked about in July 5th of 1852. He said there's a horrible reptile in the bosom of the nation. And that reptile for him was slavery. It was a certain set of assumptions, not just simply about black people, but about the superiority of white people to own black people. And he said we must rip that reptile from our hearts. But, it's the central contradiction. It's the contradiction that eats at the entrails of the country. And Donald Trump is appealing to those grievances, those hatreds, those old ghosts, as President Biden says, those old ghosts that have the nation by the throat.
Unhooked, deranged, may I say racist? I guess this explains why racist Donald Trump is getting 20% of the black vote. And let's revisit what Benny Thompson, the chair of the so-called Insurrection Committee, said to CNN's Dana Bash, by the way, soon to be co-moderator of the debate. He said this about Associate Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas.
Clarence Thomas saying that he was an Uncle Tom. What did you mean by that?
Well, if you look at his decisions on the court, they have been adverse to the minority community, and the people I represent have a real issue with an African American not being sensitive to those issues.
Calling him an Uncle Tom, though, isn't that a racially charged term?
For some it is, but to others it's the truth.
Because, looking at that and hearing that kind of language, that certainly wouldn't be, appropriate if it was coming from somebody who was white.
But I'm black.
Now, speaking of CNN, its primetime numbers hit a 3-decade low of just 83,000 viewers among the prize 25 to 54-year-old demographic. Newsbusters put together a list of things that outnumber CNN's primetime viewership. Here's one: the World Cube Association. It hosts World Championship of Rubik's Cube solvers. There are over 200,000 registered competitors, far more than the 83,000 25 to 54 CNN primetime viewers. Here's another one: professional psychics working in America. 96,000 of them. Who knew? People with something called heterochromia. These are people whose left and right eyes are different colors. 200,000. People who participated in a 1988 conga line in Miami, as noted by the Guinness Book of World Records. 119,986. Female professional forklift operators in the country. 127,000. Eat your heart out, CNN. A Real Clear Markets article said Bank of America needs to come clean about debanking practices. It wrote, and I'm quoting, "More victims of Bank of America's debanking regime have come forward, including Timothy II Project International and constitutional scholar John Eastman, a friend of mine, both debanked under similar circumstances by the nation's second largest bank. The bank's lack of transparency about cancellations that suspiciously look like they are based on viewpoint is why shareholders sought a report assessing whether the bank's policies and practices pose a risk of politicized debanking. Old Glory Bank will never debank any law-abiding customer. Our mission is the Constitution. Open an account at oldglorybank.com, and when you get your debit card in the mail, activate it, and you'll get a copy of my latest book, As Goes California, at a 50% discount. oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. Oy vey. Biden again repeats his claim that his son Beau contracted cancer as a result of his service in Iraq.
To everyone, the loved ones still missing or unaccounted for, I know how hard it can be. It can reopen that black hole in the middle of your chest, bringing you back to the exact moment you got that phone call, heard that knock on the door, or held the hand when the last breath was taken. I know it hurts. The hurt is still real, still raw. This week marks 9 years since I lost my son, Beau. Our losses are not the same. He didn't perish in the battlefield. He was a cancer victim from a consequence of being in the Army in Iraq for a year next to a burn pit. A major in the U.S. Army National Guard, living and working like too many besides that toxic burn pit. And as it is for so many of you, the pain of his loss is with me every day as it is with you. Still sharp, still clear. But so is the pride I feel in his service, as if I can still hear him saying, "It's my duty, Dad, it's my duty." Duty. Folks, thank you. Duty.
Oh, good Lord. Is that duty?
Now, we discussed this last week. One of the left-wing fact-check organizations said there is no evidence that military personnel who served in Iraq are more likely to contract brain cancer than others who served in other wars. And the VA, in a statement, said the supposed link between being near burn pits and brain cancer is, quote, unproven, end of quote. But that doesn't stop Joe from saying it, does it? Let's talk Bidenomics. I'm loving it. A McDonald's cheeseburger and a Chick-fil-A nuggets have risen as much as 200% under Biden.
So I'm heading off to Philadelphia, and if you want to ask me a question about the economy, but I'm not going to answer any question about anything else because you never will cover this.
Mr. President, why did you decide to postpone Secretary Blakey? Did you take any blame for inflation, Mr. President?
Am I taking blame for inflation? No.
Correct. Why not?
Because it was already there when I got here, man. Remember what the economy was like when I got here? Jobs were hemorrhaging. Inflation was rising. We weren't manufacturing a damn thing here. We were in real economic difficulty. That's why I don't. Thank you.
Mr. President, when and how will you remember the balloon? When and how will you remember the balloon, Mr. President?
Biden blames, wait for it, corporate greed.
Senator Elizabeth Warren has declared war on big food. The senator demands a task force to investigate giant grocery store chains and giant food producers, which she says raise prices to pad their profits. This is how the left explains the inflation that they themselves created. They push the notion that it's all the fault of big business, wielding monopoly power to gouge the consumer. That's a very weak argument. The four big grocery chains take only 1/3 of the grocery market. That is not a monopoly. That's a competitive marketplace. There's no price fixing. The market establishes the price. Supply and demand rules. The left ignores this economic reality. And so does the president. He blames inflation on corporate greed.
Trump is racist. Biden supporters are inclusive and open-minded. Really? Some final thoughts. Hey, he's here all week.
I didn't know Sylvester Stallone was on his third marriage. I guess his first one was Rocky, and his second one was Rocky 2.
I told my boss that 3 companies were after me, and I needed a raise. Which companies are after you? He said. I said, gas, electric, cable.
My Tinder bio says I have a corner office, $500,000 vehicle, views of the city, and I get paid to travel. My dates get pretty upset with me when I tell them I'm a bus driver.
I never understood why they called fake teeth dentures. Missed opportunity, call them substitutes.
Let's play Is It Racist?
Give me your money.
Oh, calm down, bro.
You calm down. Just hurry up.
Are you a black guy?
Are you serious?
What?
What, just because I'm robbing you mean I'm black?
Well, I mean...
Why would you think that?
I don't know, maybe because you're robbing me and you're black?
How you know I wasn't a white guy?
Because, bro, you talk black.
Excuse me? Talk black?
Sorry. I mean, talk African-American.
I didn't know black was a language.
Look, man, I didn't mean to offend you, okay? I was nervous.
How would you feel if I just assumed you was a gardener?
I am a gardener.
How would you feel if I assumed you was in a mariachi band?
I'd be fine with it. I love mariachi.
How would you feel if I assumed you was illegal?
Oh, okay. Calm down. That's too far. Who you been talking to?
Doesn't feel too good, does it?
Okay, well, how would you feel if I assumed you need to pay child support?
How would you feel if I assumed all you did was get drunk and watch soccer?
Well, how would you feel if I assumed you only eat chicken and watermelon?
How would you feel if I assumed you only eat tacos and fajitas?
Well, how would you... Damn, I could really go for a taco right now, actually.
Hey, actually, I could do the same.
There's actually an amazing taco truck down the street.
Oh, really? I gotta check that out.
You probably won't like it, though, because they don't have grape soda.
You know the difference between a Hispanic and a stoner?
What?
Stoners have papers.
You know the difference between a black father and a boomerang?
What's that?
Boomerang comes back.
What's your favorite band? Juan Direction?
What's really long and black? The line at KFC.
That one's kind of funny. I like that one.
It's good, right? I like Juan Direction, I'm not gonna lie.
It was a good one, right?
Yeah, it wasn't bad,
Hope you enjoyed our show, brought to you by my friends at Yrefy.com. Invest in America like I do, and by Freedom Chat. Speak freely and message privately with Freedom Chat. Download the app today and subscribe to my Freedom Chat channel at Larry Elder for exclusive posts and never-before-seen content. We also want to thank Epoch Times, Old Glory Bank, Patriot Mobile, and Birch Gold. Make sure to follow or subscribe to my channel on whatever platform you're watching this on, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. And remember, we've got a country to save.